On January 1st, 2025, the world celebrated the new year, but the very next day, devastation struck one of the world's largest secondhand clothing markets. A fire ripped through Ghana's Contamanto market, damaging 2,500 stalls and leaving 8,000 of its 30,000 merchants devastated. The market, located in Accra, is probably unfamiliar to you, but it's possible your own clothes have passed through. Maybe they ended up in a bundle carried on the head of a kayayo, delivered to a merchant, then resold, upcycled, or tossed. But here's the ugly truth. 40% of the clothing that arrives at the market is unusable and becomes garbage. Piled high along beaches and rivers, trampled under cows searching for food, lost in a sea of cheap polyester. 15 million pieces flow through Contamanto every week, and it's hardly the only dumping site for the Western world's shopping addiction. Much has been written about fast fashion and the harms of hyper-consumerism. But not much has been said about how younger generations are starting to change and taking the clothing industry with them. In this video, we're going to talk about the end of fast fashion. Is it around the corner, or is the end not yet in sight? Hey everyone, and welcome to Undoctrination. My name is Maggie, and I have a confession to make. I am a thrifter. In fact, most of my closet is secondhand. Even a decade ago, this might have been a source of shame for most people, but not anymore. Thrifting is a lifestyle, it's a skill that can be trained, and it's a statement of belief. The obvious allure is that it's cheaper, but it's also the thrill of the hunt, the joy of finding a designer piece among the town's leftovers. It's the chance to buy real fabric, cotton, silk, cashmere, without the $100 plus price tag. And it's the middle finger it sends to the fast fashion industry.
Mocking you? No, I'm not mocking you, Judge.
Then explain that outfit.
Thrifting feels guilt-free, and it's a growing phenomenon. Over the past 5 years, America's secondhand clothing industry grew from $28 billion in 2019 to $49 billion in 2024. A global data consumer survey found that 58% of American adults shopped secondhand last year. And thrifting isn't confined to Goodwill, Salvation Army, and Value Village anymore. Online, we have eBay, Depop, ThredUp, and The RealReal, platforms that let people not only buy, but resell. Secondhand markets date back to the 14th century, but modern thrift stores emerged in the mid to late 1800s after the Industrial Revolution made clothes cheaper and mass-produced. Before that, clothes were precious, held onto, mended, and resewn into new garments. But when things became more accessible, they also became disposable. In the latter half of the 20th century, thrifting became popular among alternative subcultures. And in the past decade, it's been destigmatized and transformed into a universal phenomenon. Even wealthy shoppers use secondhand retail to find unique designer pieces at a fraction of the cost. But why the thrift renaissance? Post-pandemic inflation is a large part of the picture. The cost of luxury goods rose 20 to 30% without a rise in quality. The same happened to low to mid-range retail items, with tariffs adding an additional burden. An under-discussed side effect of inflation fueled by pandemic-era money printing is that quality also declines alongside these rising prices. But price isn't the only concern for savvy shoppers, because price is what motivated the rise of fast fashion, something many young people have a growing aversion to. Clothing got 5 times more expensive over the last century, but around the 1990s flatlined, while other prices of consumer goods continued to climb. But why? Around that time, garment production moved to overseas manufacturers. We began using cheaper materials, and automation sped up production processes, hence the rise of fast fashion. Zara, H&M, and the now shuttered Forever 21 were the icons of this industry. Every week, new items entered stores at shockingly low prices, but quality got worse, our closets bulged with clothes we weren't wearing, and reports of heinous working conditions at these overseas manufacturers were hard to ignore. But in the early 2020s, something worse usurped the dominance of these retailers: ultra-fast fashion. Shein reshaped the game. In 2024, it had the third highest global market share, putting them ahead of H&M and Zara, the fast fashion giants. Their success comes down to their ability to predict and respond to trends immediately. They reportedly release 10,000 new clothing items a day, using small factories to produce small batches for market testing. It's also allegedly been linked to the use of forced labor, profiting off the subjugation of the Uyghur Muslim population in China. This is a concerning business practice, to say the least. Shein has captured the imagination of Western customers who increasingly see clothing as a disposable item. 100 billion items of clothing are now created every year. Americans buy, on average, 53 new pieces annually, 4 times what we purchased at the turn of the century. If the fashion industry was jogging during the fast fashion era, it is now running at full sprint. We no longer have a style of the decade like we did in the 70s or 80s because we cycle through trends every 30 to 60 days. Blame influencer marketing, the prominence of these ultra fast fashion sites, and our willingness to look the other way if it means getting a cheap, trendy wardrobe for vacation. No one wants to spend hundreds of dollars on micro trends that will go out of style in only a few weeks. To refresh you on a few of the micro trends of the past few years, let's hear it for the cow print, the bloomers, those tiny Brazil tank tops, the sardines on literally everything, those hyper-maximalist colors and patterns of the lockdown era, cottagecore, Barbiecore, blokecore, brat summer, office siren, Pilates princess, wearing heels with basketball shorts for some reason. It's too much. And if you're terminally online, it can be tempting to think that you need to keep up with the Joneses here, that everyone is shopping like this. But they're not. One thing I'll give my generation credit for is a growing awareness that this level of consumerism is not sustainable or aspirational. The waste we create is astonishing. The amount of natural resources we consume to produce this much waste is mind-blowing. We want to care for our planet and not treat our world like a giant trash can. And a growing number of us don't want to offload the consequences of our consumption to people in Ghana or Chile or Bangladesh. According to McKinsey's State of Fashion 2019 report, 90% of Gen Z shoppers want companies to address concerns about the environment and social issues. And many companies now market themselves as sustainable, choosing slower fashion cycles and higher quality fabrics, though they often exist at higher price points. This is where thrifting comes in. I started thrifting as a way to avoid the ick of fast fashion affordably, but the problems driving the continued slopification of fashion are still there, even if many of us are making better choices. We are encouraged to consume stuff, not just clothing, to such excessive levels that we're harming ourselves, our futures, and the future of the economy at large. A healthy economy requires saving and investment. Instead, many people in my generation are trapped in a cycle of paying down credit card debt, working to pay for the past instead of the future. The reasons for our culture of consumerism are numerous. Maybe we're consuming to fill the void, replacing that feeling of loneliness with stuff. Maybe we're nihilistic about the future, and so we spend our money now because we want to maximize the enjoyment of the present moment. Maybe we don't even see money as something real anymore. I have a whole video on the proliferation of buy now, pay later programs like Afterpay and Klarna, which are often used to buy clothes and justify purchases we can't afford. But the most common scapegoat for consumerism is capitalism. We look at these big multinational corporations and think, well, they want us to spend money. And of course they do, but they can't convince you to buy something you don't have money for. But the availability of cheap credit can. Capitalism needs saving and investing. Keynesianism, on the other hand, ventures that you can simply spend your way into prosperity, that using an entity like the Federal Reserve to artificially push down interest rates and create money out of thin air is just as good, if not better. It leads us to go on spending sprees that we can't afford.
Let me see. That's not good. They said market price. What market are you shopping at?
Not just you and I, but even really big companies. I also have a video on how this works as well that you should definitely check out. Debt makes the modern world go round, for better or worse. Regardless of distorted market signals and the constant barrage of advertising telling you to spend, 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 you can choose not to do that. The end of fast fashion is here, being replaced by ultra fast fashion, its more evil twin, but conscious consumers are replacing it with something more sustainable. In the wake of our consumerist hangover, people are starting to reject slop in all its forms. We want something real, something of quality that makes us feel tethered to one another. Thrifting is not the only way to do this. You can shop more slowly, buy with intention and quality in mind, do a no-buy challenge. But above all, I want viewers of this video to come away feeling empowered to make your own decisions and not feel like victims of a larger system that's forcing your hand. Shein can't make you buy plastic clothes. No one is forcing you to get into credit card debt. You have agency. Use it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will link all the videos I mentioned alongside some further reading in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when I upload next, and I'll see you all next week. Ciao!